If there is something consistent every single year, it is that there are humans unknowingly near white sharks. Sometimes it'll make you nervous. And sometimes you realize that just when you think you've seen it all, you see things you never imagined you'd see. This year, I witnessed some of the biggest sharks yet near shore. These large sharks may have always been here. We just hadn't bothered to look from this perspective. The more I search for sharks, the more large ones I'm finding in places I once thought were too shallow for these creatures. And the more curious I'm finding humans are about them. But it isn't always the humans that are the curious ones. White sharks themselves are some of the most curious creatures on the planet. Regardless of size, they prefer to do this from behind. For it is there that they are programmed to be at their most advantageous position. After all, the element of surprise is their main strategy. Whether it is paddleboarders or kayakers or swimmers, the lesson that can be taken away from these observations should always be that if and when you encounter a great white shark, always look behind you. I spoke to the individuals in this frame, and they admit they knew the shark was there. And they also said that this was indeed too close for comfort. Every year, I witness encounters that do cause alarm. And this year, none did more than the following. I filmed this one in the late summer. This group of young swimmers was swimming near a pier when a great white shark began an approach. The shark has a significant injury on its dorsal fin. More on that later. As it approaches the swimmers, they have no idea it is there. The lights are blinking on the drone, and I raise it up and down several times to get their attention. As I stand nearly 2 miles away, I feel helpless. Instead, I get a wave. No matter how many times this happens, it still makes me nervous. If there is something sharks do, it is to reward you for your patience. Sometimes you just get lucky. From lines called vortex trails that I never knew existed, to encounters with birds, this year provided me with some of the best moments yet. Unique behaviors that sometimes don't have an explanation, and small details that you miss if you blink. From spy hops to gill flares, these are the lives of great white sharks. Perhaps there's no greater scene than watching a fully grown white shark grace the shallows, or the subtle beauty of their iconic dorsal fin breaking the water's surface. Next year, Jaws turns 50 years old, and for as long as I remember, great white sharks, and sharks in general, have never really been shown as graceful. Yes, they can be frightening, but watching moments like this has redefined how I view them. It is the simplest yet beautiful images like this that demonstrate that Jaws did not do sharks any favors. White sharks engage with other species often, and my favorite scene of 2024 was one I've searched for years. Watch this. This is a gray whale and a great white shark together. And even more in what may be the only footage of its type. A gray whale, a dolphin, and a great white shark all share the same frame. It is abundantly clear that every day something amazing happens. Like a white shark traveling with a pod of dolphins, or a couple dolphins scaring the daylights out of a white shark. Viewing sharks from above is not something I ever imagined could tell us so much about them. But here I am, watching a white shark travel over a kelp bed, and a white shark travel through a bait ball. These are non-conventional images that I'm just not used to seeing. But there's more. There's plenty more. Filming sharks from above opens a whole new perspective into their lives, one that shows us how often they engage with their environment. I see sharks grow curious about natural things like kelp, seagrass, and even driftwood. Sometimes it's birds. It can be a man-made object that steals their attention. Simple things like a buoy can provide hours of entertainment, while giving us a view demonstrating why they are called white sharks. Other times, it could be somebody on a kayak. And sometimes it's me. I was on this kayak and experienced this scene firsthand. I could not see the shark as I filmed it. The work I've done to compile and create a database of Southern California white sharks is something I look forward to expanding in the future. Filming them from within the water is vital for ID accuracy. The image of a shark's dorsal fin is one of the most iconic in the animal kingdom. Its beauty lies in its simplicity and function. But it is the dorsal fin that is the most vulnerable to damage and injury, both natural and human. Whether it's a missing pectoral fin or a boat strike propeller injury like this one, these injuries can tell us so much about not just human activity, but the resilience of these sharks. Perhaps it is because of that resilience that they can afford to go into shallow areas that I never thought I'd see them venture into. Places like kelp beds. While the belief that great white sharks avoid kelp beds is somewhat common, they do in fact venture into them when hunting. This more than showcases their adaptability to different environments. Nobody knows exactly how many great white sharks exist along any coastline. Here in California, the increase in shark sightings doesn't mean the population is necessarily high. The fact of the matter remains, we don't know how many of these young sharks are reaching adulthood. We do know that great white sharks, and sharks in general, are essential components of all marine ecosystems. But they've never had to compete with us. Earlier in this video, we looked at how sharks engage with their environment. Whether it's with dolphins or just cruising through the surf, there is always a scene that defies the preconceived beliefs about sharks and prey. Maybe the most intriguing is when I see a shark with prey we all know they love to eat: sea lions. It is easy to assume that a shark near unsuspecting prey means certain death. But more often than not, the level of calculation, or rather indecisiveness, is displayed by the shark. This sea lion eventually notices the shark, and the element of surprise is lost. There was no scene quite as interesting as this one that I filmed in August, when not one but 5 different great white sharks passed up a seemingly free meal. This sea lion, like so many along the California shores this year, is incapacitated by domoic acid poisoning. Sometimes, just when you think that a shark is going to do what you always believed it would do, it doesn't. These sharks had a free meal right in front of them, but passed. It makes you wonder why, doesn't it? Maybe they know something we don't. The last shark I observed that day was a big one, and it too passed extremely close several times. None closer than this moment. In a fraction of a second, if this shark wanted the sea lion, it could have had it. But it didn't. What this shark is doing in these moments is quite telling. As I've said often, white sharks are not the hungry, always aggressive, bloodthirsty creatures that popular media has painted them to be. It's the observations like this, the ones that are undisturbed, that truly give us a glimpse into their lives. The fact of the matter is, the health of our oceans is very much dependent on a stable population of sharks. They are a keystone species. And while sharks can indeed be scary, there is more to them than just teeth. After all, they have survived 5 mass extinction events. Thinking of it in that context, there is nothing more scary than an ocean devoid of sharks. Join me in 2025 as I film and document more of the ocean from above. Thanks for watching.